Let's go to Peter in Millbrae. Hi, Peter. What are you doing?
I'm driving around the Bay Area. Thank you guys for taking my call.
Aimlessly?
And no, just driving home.
Okay.
Driving home.
Not a bad.
First thing I want to say is that when it comes to rest versus rust, I was one of those people that when they won against Commanders, play them the first quarter. Play everybody the first quarter against the Rams, and then take them all out. Because I feel like you're in the perfect position there. And you know they got a little rusty. I think there was some rust combined with the rain. Also, if we're talking about the run game, Armstead hasn't played for like 8 weeks, so he's our best run stopper. But the big thing I want to get into is that Brock Purdy, he had a bad game. I'm not going to deny that.
Yep.
But every pundit that I've heard said, here's the 4 things we want. Nick Wright. 4 things we want. 1, conditions can't be ideal.
Yep.
2, he has to lose a weapon.
Yep.
3, it has to be trailing in the fourth quarter by 7 or more points.
Yep.
And 4, he has to give him a game-winning drive. Well, if I count it out right, it was raining and they were rusty. Debo got hurt. They were trailing by 7 at the start of the fourth quarter, and Brock Purdy drove them down the field.
Yep, Peter, we lost you, but we get the point. We get the point. It's funny because this is what I said in the crossover. No matter what you thought about Brock Purdy going into this game, you walked away at the end of it going, you were right. Everybody thinks they were right. Amy Trask, I'm sure, was like, see, I told you.
7 terrific quarterbacks and Brock Purdy.
And listen to what Ryan Clark had to say on ESPN.
I'm about to make a confession. The single hardest thing I had to do this year was act like Brock Purdy deserved to be in the conversations with the other people we're mentioning in that tweet. Because he was playing extremely well and operating in that offense and distributing the ball to Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, we had to continue to include him in conversations with the Lamar Jacksons. We had to continue to include him in conversations with the Josh Allen. Those things are not alike. Brock Purdy is a fine player. Brock Purdy can operate in Kyle Shanahan's offense at an extremely efficient level. Brock Purdy doesn't raise the level of play of anyone around him. And so when you talk about Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, the people around them benefit from having those sorts of players at the quarterback position. Brock Purdy benefits from having the sort of players he has at the skill positions around him.
Okay, there's more that Ryan said, which we'll play in just a second, but let's start with this. We know that this opinion is out there. We may or may not share it on some level. Here's what I would say. There's one thing in there that Ryan said that is categorically false, which is that Brock Purdy does not raise the level of play of the people around him. The numbers bear it out 100%. But you cannot tell me that Brandon Ayuk has ever looked like this. Period. I told you that a 49er employee told me last week, we now have a quarterback who's unlocked our play caller, meaning that he can now go completely into his bag, which he could not do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Does that not mean it's an elevation sensation? That is elevating. That is elevating the people around you. At the same time, there's another sort of like flaw in this argument. Nobody, even me, Dibs, nobody ever said that Brock Purdy was as talented as Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Who said that?
Or Mahomes.
Mahomes is the face of the league.
Yeah.
Nobody ever said that. So the idea that you feel forced to have put those names in a conversation together is more about the MVP race, which is not about who's the most talented.
Right.
It's about the production. It's about the numbers. It's about the team. It's about whatever you get from that position. And put all the numbers together, and he does have similar numbers. In fact, the best numbers of any quarterback in the league. So set that apart. Nobody said he had the raw talent of a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. Who does? Who does? But in the end, who cares?
Right.
The goal is for your QB to produce. That's it. That's it. And I it's funny to me sometimes where we're like, well, he's back there distributing the ball. What are any of the quarterbacks doing?
Right. Josh Allen's running it, and Lamar Jackson's running it. He ran for over 100 yards.
What's Jordan Love doing?
Jordan Love is
distributing the ball.
Well, he's distributing the ball to the 49ers, unfortunately.
There you go.
In the big moments. And so I don't know about that argument about, him not making the people around him better. I don't even know what that looks like, because ultimately his job is to run the play that's called and execute the play based on the scheme, and I think he does that. So does he not make the people around him better because he doesn't have a huge arm and he doesn't have the ability to run for 100 yards in a game? Is that what makes it so that he's not somebody who makes the people around him better? I see a guy who made the necessary plays to win the game, including a big run on that drive, the touchdown drive that gave him the lead, when he pulled it down and ran for 9 or 10 yards on a play where they needed something and it broke down. So does that mean he doesn't make the players around him better? I don't really know what that part of the argument is about. And I understand it's hard for people, especially when he has a game like that, where if you take out the last drive in the fourth quarter, it was a bad game. He had an early pick that they should have had. He threw it right to the Green Bay Packers and they dropped it. He had another one that should have been picked off that wasn't. Those are breaks that sometimes go your way. Sometimes they don't, like Baltimore, where you throw 4 picks and 3 of those were tipped and one was just an absolute giveaway. And ultimately, he'll be judged by how he does on Sunday, and if they win that, how they do in the Super Bowl.
Charles Robinson is a really good writer for Yahoo. You know Charles.
Yeah.
Charles tweeted something out. Let me scroll and find it because I thought that this was here we go. He tweeted out right after the game, Brock Purdy has 25 starts, including the playoffs, in his career. In his first 2 NFL seasons, he was the 49ers' number 3 QB 18 months ago. He continues to be resilient. He had a vital game-winning drive Saturday in crap conditions. Some of y'all have a hatred of him that borders on weirdo behavior. That's something that I sent out, and I think it's why Ethan got in touch. Ethan Strauss, who wrote an article about this that y'all should go read, House of Strauss. It's really interesting, and it's based on that question of if Brock Purdy had had Jordan Love's game, what would we be doing today? And I think we'd be trying to replace him. A lot of people would be trying to replace Brock Purdy. It is. This is weirdo behavior. It's weirdo behavior. And I know that sometimes the bar starts to fly in the other direction a little bit too much for everybody's taste. Stop bringing up Joe Montana's name or whatever. That's all fine. I don't even really care about that. But it's weirdo behavior. I have never in my life, in any sport, seen somebody come out, play so well, and do it out of a we never saw you coming type place and encounter what this player has encountered. It's usually something that's celebrated. It's usually something that amazes people. It's a story that people want to tell. It's a Disney movie, as we've said. I've never seen the little engine that could come out, perform at such a level, and encounter the negativity that this player creates. It's unbelievable.
It's partly the era in which he's playing, and if this would have happened in Kurt Warner's era, which was 25 years ago, he wouldn't get the same level of backlash because there wasn't the same vehicle for the criticism. And we're in an era now where everything gets criticized. If it's the officials, the play calling, the quarterback play, Ambry Thomas, all of it, there's a certain amount of criticism and blowback that comes with the nature of the gig now more than ever before. And I disagree with you in terms of how many people would be calling for his job if he would have had Jordan Love's performance. I mean, some people would have, sure, but it's a non-starter in terms of the organization. If Brock Purdy goes out on Sunday and has the same line that Jordan Love had, if he goes 21 for 34, throws for 194, and 2 interceptions and 2 touchdowns, if that's Brock Purdy's line on Sunday and they lose to the Lions 24-21, people will be frustrated and upset. But to think that he's going to lose his job is nonsense because of the year he had and what he makes in terms of salary.
Well, but I'm not saying you're wrong there. I don't think the 49ers would be saying that.
Of course not.
And you projecting that forward to the Lions game to me is different. If he went out there in round 1 as a 1 seed with a bye and the 7 seed came to town and he had a lead the whole game and then threw 2 awful fourth quarter picks to lose that game and have the 49ers season end on January 20th, I'm not saying it's rational, but there would be a line of callers today, a line of them, saying that this guy is not the right guy.
Right. And I think that you have the same sentiment when it comes to everything else we've talked about on this station today in terms of the outrage after a win, by the way. And I've had a hard time with that throughout the course of the day in terms of this being a victory Monday. And people are frustrated with Nick Bosa. Where are you, Nick Bosa? Where are you at, Nick Bosa? Well, he did have 5 QB hits, and he didn't have a sack. And, the defensive line was not disruptive across the board. And Steve Wilks, maybe he's doing things wrong because, the defense didn't look the way we want them to look. Well, they only gave up 3 touchdowns, and one of the touchdowns was because the special teams got the Packers down to about the 20-yard line, and so it was a short field. Green Bay was 2 of 5 in the red zone, which to me is a testimony to a good defense.
Yep.
And people want to run Ambry Thomas out and all of the other outrage that we're all feeling about a victory. I just have a hard time with. And I understand it's the nature of fans and it's the nature of our business, but I think sometimes we have to take a step back and realize that the team won the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the end all, of course. Jan in Mountain View. Hey, Jan, what's going on?
Can you hear me okay?
We got you, Jan.
Okay, what I'm going to bring up is something I haven't heard today, and I've heard all the programming going on since this morning at 6 a.m., and that is that, Shanahan needs to come up with an alternative game plan, for instance, like, a plan B, when, Debo gets injured in the first quarter. Okay, go ahead and, have an alternate, an alternative plan to try to get better. And the same thing goes for the defense, for Wilkes, because I'll tell you something. If they do make it to the Super Bowl, I got news. Andy Reid knows Shanahan backwards and forwards, and I'm sure that the Baltimore coach knows the same. That's all. Thank you very much.
Jan, thanks. I'll say this. I think the world going into these playoffs of the Ravens and the 49ers defenses, and the Ravens defense was fantastic. The Niners were not. I haven't seen any team outside of Baltimore so far in these playoffs that looks like they've got a great defense, Kansas City included. I think all of these teams can play well at times and in certain situations. But, look at the Super Bowl last year. Not a situation that came down to defense.
Right.
The Niners may need to do that. The Niners may need to do this, what everyone's been asking Brock Purdy to do anyway. They may need to outscore some teams. You might need to outscore Detroit. You might need to score 30 in this one. You might need to score 30 in the Super Bowl. The conditions are all going to be perfect for it. So you got to be willing to play that way because for whatever reason, this defense is not monsters of the Midway right now.
Right, and I think when you look at Detroit's offense and what they've been able to do most of the time this year, they are able to run it and pass it. They are explosive. They can grind you out. I think 30 is going to be needed this Sunday.
Bobby Moon on YouTube, Super Chat. Shanahan didn't kick the field goal at the end of the third, so he could go into the fourth down 7 and snap that 0 for 30 streak of fourth quarter comebacks down 5. So he waited until the fourth quarter to score so that he could snap the stat.
Yeah, genius.
Because if I'm Kyle Shanahan, that's what I'm worried about in the middle of a playoff game as a 1 seed. I'm going to be worried about some statistical oddities.
Well, you had a chance with 33 seconds left where you could have kicked it. Maybe it was the direction of the wind in the field, but it could be what Bobby Moon's talking about because you waited until the first snap of the fourth quarter to kick that thing.